Back to the pact. So should you want to access some of your money that you have deposited with France, you have to submit your country's financial returns. And if approved, you get to get it as a loan. You can only access up to 20% of your money year in, year out as a loan at commercial interest rates. Your own money. As if that was not enough. They said all your minerals discovered, yet to be discovered, all your oil discovered, yet to be discovered. France and French companies have the first right of refusal. If there's anything left over that the French companies do not want, your people might have. To this day. They said you will only use the currency that we created for you because you're special Africans. We call it the CFA. There was the Central African CFA and the Western African CFA, same animal. And that France is the only one that can print it for you. 1958. Fast forward. They're still printing it for us. And if you start misbehaving, they just stop printing your money. And your country's in trouble. They also said your language of instruction shall be French, whether you like it or not. That France will have military presence in your country. That your military can only be trained by France. That you can only buy military equipment from France. That you cannot have any military alliance with your neighbor. And that in the event of war, your allegiance is only to France. And furthermore, because they have military presence in your country, they can invade you without notice should they feel that the interests of France in your country are being violated.
Teach, sister, teach. Speak on, sister.
Fast forward, 2019, nothing has changed. The same people who have the audacity to tell us that we are poor countries, they are taking trillions out of Africa every year. And what is the African doing? Like an obedient, programmed black man, we just give in. We know the facts, but we just do nothing about it. Now, you have to say some of the fears are real, because if France that has sold you inferior equipment to theirs, France that has trained your military to be inferior to their military, they are now in your country. They can invade you. They have the permission to do so. They can destabilize you. And then one might say, why is it that African leaders haven't done anything about this deplorable situation? Well, let me tell you, my brother and sister, they have tried. Documented to this day, 22 coups where leaders were assassinated. France had something to do with it. The first 7, when they decided they were pulling out of the CFA and that they're going to print their own money, they were assassinated. Every time an African leader has tried to do what's best for their country, they were assassinated. Majority of them aided by France. It's a known fact. And then others, they were just mercenaries who felt that when there was a natural resource discovered in one country, they wanted to create a coup. So while the country is thrown into a civil war, they're siphoning the natural resource. We know of one particular story that had we not known about it, it would have been, oh, there we go again, the Africans. In about 25 years ago, a group of young, rich white kids were having fun in Cape Town. They found out that there was oil in Equatorial Guinea that had just been discovered, and they wanted it. So they set out a plan to have a coup in Equatorial Guinea. So while the Guineans are busy fighting a civil war, they will be siphoning the oil. But they made one mistake. There were 2 planes. One was to leave South Africa, stop in Zimbabwe, pick up more ammunition on their way to hunt in Equatorial Guinea. Another plane was taking off in the Caribbean that had this puppet diaspora who was supposed to be the next president. Mugabe wondered why such young people needed such powerful ammunition to go hunt in Equatorial Guinea. In doing his research further, he found out that this was a coup in the making. He allowed them to land in Zimbabwe. They loaded their plane, and just before takeoff, they were all arrested. The ringleader of that group was none other than the son of the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Margaret Thatcher. She had to fly to Zimbabwe and paid handsomely to get her son out. The last one of those prisoners left Zimbabwe about 6-7 years ago. Had these young people succeeded, it would have been another coup. There you go, the Africans again. Such, my brothers and sisters, is the story of your Africa. They don't do coups anymore. They simply create instability. So when you hear of an instability in an African country, ask yourself, what is really going on? Because what they are telling you is really going on is just a shiny object. The real issue is over here. And you need to stop before you start being used as an instrument of your own self-destruction.
She's did it. That is so powerful. And it's so true. I spent a lot of time on the continent, and it is beyond disturbing to see the after effects of the reality of the exploitation that continues to go on there. And I am so happy that she had the opportunity, that you got the opportunity to capture her, breaking that down. Because one thing I can say that I think is important that African Americans understand is that white supremacy is stunningly consistent. I don't care where it appears on this planet. If it appears in the form of colonization of the motherland, if it appears in the form of slavery, white Jim Crow, and oppression here in America, if it appears in the form of oppression of our brothers and sisters in South America, it is stunningly consistent. They utilize the same methods everywhere, killing our leaders, exploiting us economically. It is the same. And so when we try to segregate ourselves and say that as African Americans, our experiences are way different, let me just say, we do have a distinct culture, but we have a very similar history and a very similar contemporary reality when it comes to dealing with the after effects of supposed white supremacy.
So Shannon, what is
And hearing this, it's heartbreaking, you know, to understand that this has been going on from back then to a little bit further, to now, you know, and it's not something that I would hazard a guess that many African Americans are aware of. Not in the full detail.
and a matter of fact, I made a point when I stood up there. I said probably if you asked 98% of black folks about the 1884 Berlin Conference, they would have no idea what you're talking about.
99.9.
So you know, we get so wrapped up in our struggles here, we forget that there are similar struggles that really are not as dissimilar as people would like to say, that are going on in all other parts of the world, specifically Africa and South America.
And Teresa, what's important here is the ability to be able to connect, and that is to connect African Americans with the continent. When you talk about the natural alliance is there, but you got to have folks who hook it together. Reverend Leon Sullivan, of course, the late Leon Sullivan, media people there, and they were African. Nobody else was there. And so I was invited, and I certainly appreciate that. I had a chance to address them as well. And one of the things that I talked about was why you must have a communication apparatus, because it's also one of the reasons why we don't know, which is also why, and I said it there, my whole point about HBCUs as well, why you have to have those HBCUs also sending out their information, letting folks know about what's going on, because otherwise we're existing in these silos. And so knowing what's going on is critically important, which is why it's important for you to support Roland Martin Unfiltered, because we have to have a platform that's covering our issues. While I was there, the brother who heads communications up for Ghana said, hey, he would love to talk more. They, of course, they are talk about travel. They're doing a number of events in Ghana this year because of the year of return. Senegal. So people are planning all sorts of trips back to the motherland this year because it's the year of return. And so in talking, the brother said, hey, I would love to have the ambassador of Ghana come on your show. The reality is there is no place There's no place for these African leaders to talk to black folks.